Welcome to Corrective Consciousness, episode 89, the podcast about our lives and love of pop culture. I'm your host, VyseTheBold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And PyroJackFrost.
And still can't say this right. This was take 3, everybody. I get so tongue-tied. I guess, I'm not used to doing the announcer voice, while I'm at home by myself. I guess that would be kind of weird.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you kind of get used to it over time. I kind of cheat because on my Let's Plays, I just talk like this. I'm not like, hey, everybody. I don't have to switch on or anything like that.
Yeah, I like to turn on the carnival barker a little bit,
Get out of here, kid. You're bothering me.
Hey, guys and gents, win the Koopy doll.
Yeah, the...
Guys and gents, what about the ladies?
No.
Ladies and women. Give this man a cigar.
All right, kid, you're bothering me.
I love that. It just cracks me up every time, like in the mask.
Yeah, Moxie.
Yeah, get out of here, kid. You're bothering me.
Well, we're back with the OG3, and for anybody who doesn't know, this is the podcast where we go over what we did in our lives this week, and typically the nerdy stuff and everything in between. So why don't you take us away, Pyro?
All right, so I will talk about, I'll mention, I guess, my usual phone updates. So I've actually, like I mentioned last time, have been able to beat the story in Grand Blue Fantasy. They released a couple more chapters, so I beat those. For a little while, I was starting to get a little tired of it because, so you may or may not have heard, but the birthday event was going on like the past month or so.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of stuff going on. So they doubled the... So usually when I play, I just do the daily stuff. And I don't really grind that much. So for me to ever complete the game, it's going to take me a long, long time. But even the daily stuff, the grind was doubled over the birthday weekend. Or not the birthday month, I should say. So it was starting to get become a lot of work every day in a way. So I was starting to get tired of it. Plus, I'm still playing the Final Fantasy Dissidia phone game, which I'm also getting tired of a little bit, but I think that's more because there's not a lot of content. And so it's, I guess you could say it's a little less grindy than Grand Blue, but more of a required grind, let's say, than Grand Blue, which you don't have to do most of that stuff. More so, too, that the Grand Blue grind is stuff you can always do. Like, the daily stuff might change. The dungeons might change that you can grind, but it's not like... Other than the story stuff, which isn't really necessary, will go away.
Did you pump any money into Grand Blue, or were you able to do it free the whole time?
I could have, but I paid a little bit of money just for some characters that I wanted.
Oh, okay. So you didn't pay for boosts or content or anything like that.
No, I didn't really pay for anything that was not something that I got to choose what I did and something that was permanent. Yeah.
I would buy characters. That's something that I would buy.
Yeah,
to me, that's meaningful content.
The thing with boosts is I understand that people like the game and they want to advance in it, but it just doesn't seem right that it's a bonus to pay to not to play the game. Shouldn't you be enjoying the experience?
Yeah. No. In fact, that's kind of related to what happened to Star Wars.
This week?
Or it happened recently. They totally unlocked the legends.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
because
it used to be that
free now.
Yeah, it used to be you had to put in literally hundreds of hours if you wanted to unlock everyone the legit way, and it's the game is not supposed to be a chore. If I wanted to not play the game, I could simply not pay $60 for the base game. I don't own the game. Look at me, I'm not playing it right now.
Kotaku's article headline was the best thing. They were but what about our sense of accomplishment?
Yeah, no, that became a meme fucking instantly. Dude, I mean, we've been over this before, but I'll tell you if I feel a sense of pride and accomplishment. You don't tell. It's like that. Do you remember that really old Simpsons episode with Homer's, I think it was half brother Herb, where he invented that
DeVito.
shitty bubble. That was Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
Oh wow! But like, yeah, remember Homer was inventing that like shitty 60s sci-fi bubble car, like that was just a piece of garbage. But
nobody
like,
liked it but him.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, Herb ended up making a crappy car because of letting Homer take over everything. That's a good argument of why you don't want to let the fans dictate everything, because they kind of don't know what they want. But at the same time, though, Herb did make a really good point when those guys were like, well, according to statistics, this, that, and the other. And Homer's like, yeah, but I don't want that. And Herb was like, you hear that, guys? You're not asking them what they want. You're telling them what they want. So, like, obviously I can't go completely that direction either, because EA telling us what we want did not fucking work. But, like, there should be some kind of degree of communication, I think. Or at least not 100% one way or the other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so what I was going to say with Final Fantasy Dissidia is that like every week there's a new event that lasts a week long, let's say, where you get a new character, but their experience is doubled for that week. So if you need to grind with them to get them up to max level if you want to do it while you're able to. And it's like the grind is... I wouldn't necessarily say it's required, but it feels more that they're forcing me to play more so than I'm playing as much as I want to play.
Yeah.
So,
if you want them to be high level sometime today, then you better play the game at this particular point in time. Like,
yeah.
I mean, it's nice that they're giving you the opportunity at all. Like, yeah, I know they're new. Here, have more, like, have double experience. That is considerate, but at the same time, it also does put the pressure on.
Yep. But, like, I beat all the story content in it. I beat everything that's not on a weekly basis, so we'll see if it stays interesting. Like, it might even just be that I've played enough now that I can relax when there's nothing going on and just play Grand Blue. But, yep, I'm still playing those and probably will at least play Grand Blue for a long time, like I've been saying every single time I talk about it.
Sure.
Other than that, I paused on Final Fantasy IX because like I mentioned last time I was on, it was getting kind of draining just because every single time I played a game, it was just that.
Yeah.
And I played a little bit more Final Fantasy XIV. Now, I say that, but if you ask Old Man Stompy, he's going to be like, yeah, he was on for like 2 hours. That's nothing. But I did go back onto it.
Yeah.
And I also went to continue Darksiders 2.
Nice.
Because I really wanted to beat that.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Especially with the third game, like, soon to be out.
Yeah, and I remember we talked about this like a month ago or 2 months ago when I started playing it. But also, like, it makes me want to play the first one again. Although, honestly, the more I get into 2, the less I want to play 1, just because I know that I remember what happened in 1, and anything that I would get from beating 1 would only really matter if I started 2 over again, because, like, you get, like, a certain equipment if you have a 1 save file. But anyway, so those are the games I've been playing. But also, the past couple weeks, I've been playing a lot of board games. 2 in particular that I wanted to talk about. One, I hung out with my brother and his girlfriend yesterday, and we played this game called Vyse, the Crystal Caverns. It's a really interesting board game because it's up to 5 players, but they each play a different character, and it's asynchronous. Not asynchronous, sorry. It's every character plays differently. For instance, one person plays as the cave, and their job is to grow until they can't grow anymore, then collapse the dungeon. And if they collapse the cave, in the right, like if they collapse the right tiles, then they win.
That's clever. Wow. That's clever.
The dragon has to do enough things to basically wake up and then escape the dungeon. The knight has to kill the dragon. The goblins need to kill the knight.
Wow.
And the thief needs to steal enough treasure because the thief's mechanic is kind of cool. So the goblins, their mechanic is like they have population that increases, and when they get damaged, they scatter and they lose population, but they can't actually die, let's say. The knight and the dragon both have HP, so they can actually die. The thief is immortal, and that's why he's collecting treasure, because he needs to collect the treasure to break his curse. Oh. So one hit kills him, but then he just starts at the entrance of the cave again.
That's really neat.
And it sounds
it's a really neat game.
And it sounds like everybody's going after everyone else. Like there's a rock, paper, scissors thing going on with the knight, the dragon, and the goblins, but then the thief and the cave also have a thing going on.
Yeah, because like also the dragon eats the goblins is one of the things. He doesn't have, like, that's one of the things he can do to wake up.
Sure.
So there is there is like a little rock paper scissors going on with like you said, Lotus, and then there's the thief and the cave, which are like the thief is just worrying about himself and trying to avoid everyone, whereas the cave is trying to like impact everyone so he can do what he needs to do.
This isn't quite the same thing because what you're describing sounds way deeper, but what this almost reminds me of is if you play a full, I think it was like whatever the maximum number of players is, like a 6-player game of Risk, where you can introduce like secret goals. Like each player has like, oh, you need to conquer all of Asia, or you need to conquer like at least 10 different countries or something. So each character or each player has a different goal, and you don't really know what it is until all of a sudden someone says I win, and it's like, what?
It's like that, but at the same time in Vast, every character's turn is different too. Like the dragon's actions on his turn are different than what the hero does, the knight does. So like they all actually play differently. Whereas like in your example, every person still plays the same way. Their goal
you just don't know what their objective
but
is.
But in Vast, every person does a different thing on their turn.
That's cool.
So it's actually really cool. Like the one thing I was worried about at the beginning was it seemed a little unbalanced, and like that could happen when you have 5 totally different roles, like balancing them properly. But at the end, so the knight won, which was my brother's girlfriend won the game. But by that time, we all were pretty close to winning.
Good.
So even though in the beginning it felt like it was a little unfair, because also we weren't really attacking the knight at all, and she like leveled up very, very quickly, and we were like, oh crap. But then near the end, we all kind of did what we need to, so it ended up working out.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's a really fun game. It's my brother's game, but yeah, it was fun. I heard about it on a podcast, so I wanted to try it, and he had it, so yeah.
What's it called one more time?
Vast, the Crystal Caverns.
I need to check that out. That sounds great. Now, there's actually a really neat board game store near me that I want to take you to if you visit anytime soon.
Cool.
They just have stacks and stacks of board games. It's literally like the most stocked board game store I've ever seen.
Oh, that's actually really cool.
It's awesome. Like they have tons of floor space where they just have like piles of board games on the floor, like all stacked up. It's awesome. You could basically find anything there. It's really cool.
Nice. Yeah, and actually the other board game that I wanted to talk about is one that originally Vyse introduced to all of us, but never learned the rules in time to actually allow us to play it.
Yeah, that's the thing about new board games is you kind of have to study them first.
Yeah, so the game that I'm talking about is Super Dungeon Explorer. It's really cool because it's like it's very anime-esque and very like retro gaming-esque. So the really cool thing though about the one that I played, one of my friends owns the new version of it, which actually has a mode called Arcade Mode where there is no evil player. You're playing against the game. Nice. So that was one thing about the version that you had. Yeah, the one that you had, there was like a game master that controlled the monsters. But in the one that I played, there was the game was playing against us, and it was actually pretty fun. It took a lot longer than we expected it to take. Took like a few hours.
Here's a question though: when you're all playing against the game, then does somebody just draw a card and it says put a monster here? Like, how do you get the game okay, because what I was wondering was, again, Risk, if you're playing with like 5 players or something, like each player rotates and takes control of like the AI player. Like if you're playing like a 3-player game but there's only 2 of you, then each of you takes turns controlling the 3rd player to balance it out, and it's weird.
we need to play more co-op games with you. So you can see the different mechanics they have with them. I've seen
Arkham Horror.
Yeah, well, a lot of games that have co-op rules, especially like Dungeon Crawler, like Super Dungeon Explorer, and a game that I have called Myth, the way that it works is you draw cards that tell you like at least what monsters to put out, and then usually most monsters have some sort of rules as to where you put them or how you place them, and then how they move. And there are times too where the rules will say if you're trying to decide who the monster attacks and you're tied, like just the first option you pick, just go with it. Like you're playing the game. Like they're saying we'll give you as much work as we can give you, but there's going to be lots of different scenarios that we cannot give you every little piece of information. So make it fun for yourselves.
Fair enough.
And
Yeah.
same with, and then on the other hand too, the Arkham Horror card game that's co-op. Like they actually have a rule that says if you're ever unsure about what to do, pick the option that's the least favorable for the players. Because Arkham Horror is all about like the players losing.
Yeah, it's
as
not
much as
easy.
possible.
Yeah.
So sometimes they do that to make it like you choose who it attacks, but pick the least favorable option.
That's interesting.
Like so, yeah. So usually they do it pretty well.
Nice.
And then, so I've also been doing a lot of reading. So Fantasy Flight Games, the people who made the Arkham Horror board games and Descent and Android Netrunner, I've been reading a lot of their novellas. They're like 100 pages long, which is nice. Like short ones, I can read a third of them on like one commute back and forth from work sometimes.
That's awesome.
But I've read like, I've almost finished the third one. One of them was in the Arkham Horror universe, and the other two were in the Android Netrunner universe. So they're just really cool because actually what I did today is I looked through all my Android cards and looking at to see like what cards were referenced in the books. And I'm like, oh, that's one of the characters in the book. Oh, like that's one of the things that happened. So it was really cool.
It's almost like
reading
Magic
those
the
books
Gathering in that way.
Yeah, exactly. Like learning more about the world.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was I know you guys mentioned about Toys R Us last week and it going under. So I actually went to Toys R Us yesterday to try to pick up some swag, and I'm probably going to go again next week.
The Ravens are circling.
Yeah. So the one I went to yesterday was one of the ones near me, and the one I'm going to go to next week is one in New Jersey to see if they have anything different. I bought some Nerf guns because they weren't like that much cheaper, but cheaper, and it was actually kind of funny. So whenever I go to Toys R Us, they never have any Transformers, and mainly because the selection of Transformers is very slim. Like the space they have, let's say, to display Transformers is really little.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was funny because
is that because there isn't a movie out currently?
It might be. I really don't know why, and I really never know why. But it was really funny because when we went yesterday, it looked like there was a lot of space that they had for Transformers, but they only had like 10 Transformer toys left, and they were all copies of the same 3. And I'm like, are you serious? The time that I go to one, and they actually look like they would have a lot, they're all basically sold because Toys R Us is going under. So I'm hoping that when I go next weekend, I might get a selection, but that's probably going to be just as bad.
Yeah. That's kind of my concern. I didn't go on day one, so now I don't expect to find anything that I'm interested in, but I'll check anyway.
And I'm gonna about the Nerf guns. This is a more of a visual thing, but I bought the Nerf gun I got made like a sniper rifle, and I'm gonna show you guys a picture. But that's besides the fact. You can go on to your turn, Lotus Prince.
Very well. I actually got a bunch of game stuff to talk about. First of all, the White Day Let's Play is done, so hooray. Happy about that. But I do want to point out one slightly amusing thing that happened during the LP, though, is there's this one part when you enter Building 2, where there's this whole thing where you gotta find a key, but you get hints that indicate where they are to help you find out that you need to go into a storage room because it's hidden inside a vase. You turn the vase in. It's like Resident Evil 1. You could 3D manipulate objects. So you look inside the vase and you can find the thing. But the clue for that is that there's a picture of like a student holding a vase, and that's what indicates like, oh, I've seen that before, and you find the note about it. But the student kind of looked like me, so I pointed that out, and then Mike Lopez in the comments section was like, a rare cameo of Lotus Prince and his friend VyseTheBold. I was like, yeah, it was amazing.
That's pretty great.
And like I recorded the game well before uploading it, so at first I thought it was a typo, and then I clicked his timestamp, and I was like, hey, it was amazing.
That's really good.
Yeah. The second thing is that I beat Ori in the Blind Forest. I mean, I'm basically going to say the same thing I did last time. The game's freaking gorgeous.
Yeah, I've wanted to play that. It's one
really
of those 2D platformers, like a Castlevania kind of.
I was going to say it's a 2D Metroidvania, and it's not overly long. It's like 9 or 10 hours, and I was going around looking for extra upgrades, so I made it take longer. But you can be pretty efficient in that game. So, once again, really gorgeous, and it's got the environmental thing going on, like restoring the forest and bringing back, like, features that allow you to explore further, like unpolluting, like cleaning the water so it's no longer poison when you swim in it, so you can access more places that way, etc.
Okay.
And it's really, and like I've said this 100 times, the graphics and the animations and the music is just gorgeous. The animations, I was surprised by just how smooth everything looked, like really smooth. So just really cool to see, and I'm happy that I played it. So I'm gonna need to edit that and start uploading it, because that's the next Let's Play I'm gonna be putting up. Speaking of Let's Plays I'm going to be putting up, for a couple Let's Plays down, Mr. Ryu and I, actually that same day, finished Until Dawn. So that game is freaking amazing.
How many survivors?
I'm not going to say. I will say that at the end...
Was it just one?
No, I mean, I will say this. I had an opportunity... Like, you know, at the very end of the game, you have the opportunity to make or break everything? At, like, the last set of QuickTime events? We broke everything, so I reloaded, because once you beat the game, I didn't realize this, but you can replay chapters of your choice. So I was like, I'm gonna, like, whoever died earlier in the game died earlier, but I'm gonna redeem that. That was some bullshit. So like we did that. That
Nice.
was satisfying. That game again, so good. Like that game was so much fun. We were super into it the whole time.
That game is way better than any, like, you would ever expect it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I had to
And it's
complain about...
disappointing that the sequel to it was an on-rail shooter.
I wasn't sure what that game
Yeah.
would be. I knew it was VR. I didn't know, like, what it was, though. But, yeah. But as for Until Dawn itself, like, if I had to complain about anything, it would be that because it's a movie, like, if you're replaying stuff, you really can't skip anything. So it's just like, well...
That's a good point.
I wanted to do, because I was like, I gotta save everybody at the end again, and I just have to sit through the whole thing in the beginning of chapter 10 with the doctor talking to you. I'm like, I know what happens, and I know where the QuickTime events are and are not. Come on now. Although one thing that is kind of funny, I've never actually tried this before, but we were able to. We didn't actually end up having to use it, fortunately, but we were able to save scum. We just like got to a point where we knew the game would have autosaved and just put it onto a USB. And, like, if I mess this up, I'm reloading it because I'm not playing fucking 50 minutes to get back here again. Because, like, that's the whole thing with Until Dawn. Like, once something happens, it has happened. Like, deal with it.
And some of the QuickTime events are like if your timing's just a little off, you could do something completely different than you wanted to.
Yeah, I am pleased to say that I think I only flubbed 2 QuickTime events in the entire game. Like, the big runaway sequences where they throw a bunch of prompts at you, I nailed those. Like, I only messed up only, like, 2 button presses, and a couple of those don't move things, because I wasn't sure how to hold the controller, because it takes the controller's position as you were holding it. So I'm like, so when I see the little icon moving up or down, I'm like, what does it mean to move it in the other direction? Like, how do I move it in the other direction when I'm holding the controller like this? So I was like, So whenever I knew that there would be a no move thing, I would make sure to hold the controller, like, totally horizontal. I'll be like, I'm going to hold it like this. That way I know what's happening and I can orient myself. Otherwise, just some quick things. I beat The Girl and the Robot. That was the game I mentioned, I think, last week, which it's on the Unity engine. It's generally basic gameplay, a little clunky at times, but the whole game is puzzle solving. And there was a part toward the end where you're going through a maze where I absolutely cheesed the game because I legitimately could not figure out how to do it the real way. Like, no matter what I would do, the girl would get captured by enemy robots. So I eventually kind of, like, you can jump on top of the walls of the maze with the girl, which I think you're kind of like, the game doesn't really care if you do that. But I was able to do that at one point with the robot when you're definitely not supposed to be doing that. And I was like, I can't think of the real way to do this, so here it is. After like a half hour, I'm like, I don't fucking know. But otherwise, the game got tough, but like, you at least knew what you were supposed to be doing.
There was a scenario in Darksiders 2 where like there was a bomb that I thought I needed to get, and I like snuck along the wall on a place I obviously was not supposed to be walking on to pick it up, and then I blew up the wall that I was supposed to blow up with it, and then I walked like another couple feet, and I'm like, oh, that's the bomb I was supposed to get. It was like obviously on the ground where you're supposed to walk.
That's kind of funny. I think what I was supposed to do was, like, there's this part where the girl's supposed to crawl through a small tunnel, and there's a lever right in front of you. You pull the lever, and it opens a gate that lets the robot go through, and then you could sweep the area with the robot. But this area was being patrolled by enemy robots that were super fast, And, like, for the life of me, I could not get in there, pull the lever, and get out before getting captured. Like, it just wasn't happening. Apparently, I guess my problem was that I was running, and somebody in the chat told me, like, you're supposed to sneak, and I'm like, I didn't know that was a mechanic, like, at all. Like,
oh, wow.
Like, I didn't know that walking or running would make a difference, because you're not, like, really loud when you run anyway. I was like, whatever, fuck it. And the end of the game was still kind of like Ico, where you deal with, like, the queen in a more direct, well, not about the same kind of manner that you do in Ico. Like, you need to get to her and then hit her with your sword. She's not sending out instant death beams, but she has these, like, super robots that are guarding her, and it's kind of tough to get around. So it was interesting. What I did not realize was that the game is apparently, like, episode 1 of, I don't know, more. Like, this was a Kickstarter game, but nothing on the box or anything indicated it was episodic. I guess if you'd followed the Kickstarter, you would have known, but I didn't. So the way the game ended was, like, in a way that really did not seem like the game was over. And I was like, oh man, I really thought, like, because I just got an achievement that said the final room. Not when I beat the queen, but when I entered her boss fight. So I'm like, oh, we're at the end of the game. But then a cutscene happens, and I'm like, there's somehow more after the final room, and then credits. I'm like, what? So it turns out that there's going to be more later, I guess. So I'm curious to see what that turns into. Otherwise, the other game I've been streaming, I just started Zack and Wiki on the Wii. And that game.
Oh, I heard that was great.
That game's freaking sweet. Like, it's like a really upbeat pirate game, like Skies of Arcadia, except Skies of Arcadia, like, had, like, it turned dark. I'm not far into Zack and Wiki, but I don't think it's going to get, like, depressing, like Skies does at points, because Skies has something of, like, a social commentary and stuff like that, and Zack and Wiki, I think it's just supposed to be fun puzzle solving. Like, it's just Capcom having fun, with all sorts of innovative motion controls.
That was a standout title for the Wii that, like, a lot of people missed initially.
Yeah, I missed it too. I bought it years later. Like, I'm playing it now, like, 9 years after the fact. I
have it, and I've never played it.
Yeah, I only got it a few years ago. I saw a Retro Game Store had it. I was like, oh, there you are. Because that's a game I would see at GameStop and just be like, I don't know what this is. And then I finally saw gameplay of it. I'm like, actually, this looks really cool. It's very clever puzzle solving. And you can die if you mess things up. You can have enemies kill you, but, like, you could also, like, activate a trap, and it's like, whoops, shouldn't have done that. Retry the stage. And so I'll see where it goes. I'm trying to rebuild the skeleton of a pirate that's been turned into, like, a ghost skeleton, so I'm trying to find his body parts. Right? He starts as a skull, and I'm finding, like, pieces of him. There's, like, 16 pieces in total, I think. So I look forward to doing that. Otherwise, do you guys know the game called Trials, where you're on the motorcycle?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And they later released Trials
Those games are fun.
Yeah. And they later released Trials HD, which is, you know, HD Trials with, you know, there's more levels and stuff like that. And it's really cool 2D with, like, a 3D appearance, but it's a 2D game where you're trying to go over ledges and everything and, like, not fall over and lose, otherwise you have to restart the past checkpoint.
It's kind of like a more fair QWOP. Like, it has, like, its moments.
I can kind of see that, and you are kind of a ragdoll on your motorcycle. Yeah,
you're basically, it's an intense physics-based game. It's not a motocross game as it appears.
Yeah, no, like, there's accelerate, there's brake, and then you use the control stick to lean left and right to pop a wheelie or kind of make sure that you don't do that, so, like, you don't flip over when you're going up ramps and stuff. Well, here's a game that came out a couple years ago that I never knew about. Trials of the Blood Dragon. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, so that was, like, the second Blood Dragon game. Like, it follows, you know, Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's related at all, other than aesthetically.
No, it is. It's supposed to take place 12 years later. But obviously, they're completely different kinds of games. Yeah, like Far Cry Blood Dragon is a Far Cry game. It's a first-person shooter with the crazy, radical 80s and pink neon, like, over-the-top commando, like, style, like, remember the 80s kind of game? And Trials of the Blood Dragon is that aesthetic, but on a Trials game. But the game's cool as shit. Like, not just because of the aesthetic, but also because there are more mechanics than Trials is typically allowed. Like, there are targets you need to shoot, so you just use the right stick to aim at them, and you fire your little machine gun from the motorcycle. There are parts where you commandeer different vehicles that have different weights. There's a part where you're like, I need to do espionage, so you send one of those toys that you might have seen on TV as a kid through a vent. It's like...
Neat.
It's one of those
like
little...
a remote control car?
Yeah, but it's a specific kind. Do you remember the kind with the really big wheels and tires with the small body in the middle? So
and it could flip over?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you could do that. So you can't ever fall over and lose, but whenever you do flip, your controls are reversed, so you gotta get used to controlling it. It's insanely cool. And there are parts where you run on foot, and it just becomes a really basic action platformer. Like, it is... I can't believe I missed this game this whole time. I was watching my friend Luminaire play it, and I'm just like, where has this game been all my life? Like, it's so cool.
Yeah, apparently it got a poor critical reception because, like, I think they
must have not realized that it was a Trials game.
Yeah, I think that was the problem, is they marketed it to Trials people and the Far Cry people, and neither got what they wanted.
Yeah, the Trials people didn't want Blood Dragon, and the Blood Dragon people didn't want Trials.
Exactly, and
but the game's just fucking cool though. Like, I'm not a big
Trial this week too.
It is. I think the sale ends like tomorrow. By the time this podcast goes up, I think the sale will already be over. But
that's a shame.
And it's on Steam, by the way. Like, and obviously you play. But I looked it up on PSN, and it's not on sale on PSN. I was like, oh. But that game, I'm not a big Trials guy. But god damn, I was into this game. There's a part where, because the plot's stupid and doesn't matter, there's a part where you need to get like this holy grail from like a cave. But what's really funny is that the cinematic shows like a first-person view, like before you start playing. The cinematic shows a first-person view of you like entering a cave, and then it reminded me of the kids show Legends of the Hidden Temple. But then Luminaire was like, no, it's definitely supposed to be Indiana Jones, Holy Grail. And then when you get through the cave, it shows you like a not Raiders of the Lost Ark font. And so it's like there was definitely that. But then when you start playing, the evil spirit guarding the Grail is like, you need to leave this cave. And he's talking like fucking Olmec from Legends of the Hidden Temple. I'm like, yes! Like, that's a reference you're making?
Both were right.
Yeah, but what's also funny, though, is that, like, this game is obviously designed for people specifically from our generation. Anyone else who plays that, like, I mean, they're still going to have a perfectly good time, but, like, that's, at this point, a pretty esoteric reference.
Yeah, they would.
Even I didn't watch that show much when I was a kid. Otherwise, just really quickly, I have two things. One of them is the Wii Shop. Again, by the time this podcast goes up, the Wii Shop will be open for re-downloading your games, but you can no longer pay money to buy Wii
You
points.
can buy games, but you can't add money to your wallet.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, if you want to add money to your wallet, then if you're listening to this podcast, then it's too late. And, like,
travel in time.
Yeah, like, as we're recording this podcast, there's barely any time left. Like, by the time we finish recording tonight, it'll be too late for us. But I did get 4 things. I didn't get anything on Virtual Console because I'll just play those games either emulated on something else, so I don't have to play with the Wiimote, or I'll play it on their original hardware, whatever. But I did pick up 4 Wiiware titles. I got Anima, Arc of Sinners. I don't normally go for Castlevania-style games, but I was like, it's a Wiiware title, it'll disappear, I'll take a look. I got Muscle March, because we were talking about that before. You know I gotta get Muscle March.
Great game.
And you are insanely good at it for whatever bizarre
For
reason.
A first try, yeah.
You didn't realize that Lotus, like, they modeled some of those models off of Lotus.
That's right, yeah. Like Choaniki, Muscle March, it's based on me. But then there's...
He's always searching for protein.
all the time. And then I fail when I'm playing as the weird alien guy. Then I got Ghost Slayer, which looks kind of janky, but entertaining enough for someone like me, where... It looks like a VR game where, like, you're holding the tool in front of you and you move it around, like, as a pointer. Like, it's like your hand in VR. You're like, sure. And you're just swiping at ghost enemies that come by. I don't know if it's on a rail or if you're moving freely, but yeah, so it looks interesting enough. And, of course, I got Stone Keep Bones of the Ancestors, that piece of shit, because I have to.
Somebody has to buy it.
I have to stream that at some point, like... The thing is, if I stream that before playing the original Stone Keep, which I almost certainly will do, I'm going to have to release this major disclaimer, like, guys, please do not think that the original Stone Keep is this bad, because the original Stone Keep is actually quite good. It's like the predecessor of Grimrock. Please do not shit on Stone Keep because of this awful fucking WiiWare title. But I do want to mention one thing, though, and that is that when the WiiWare thing first started happening, people were like, oh, what are these corny, like, dumb games on our Wii Shop channel? I don't want these. Like, I want all these classic games that I like growing up with. But now that the Wii Shop's closing down, everyone's like, oh, but these are the only place to get, not all, but most of these games. Like, oh, you're cutting
Almost
off
all of them.
Yeah.
A good
Very few reported to like mobile or something, but like
there's plenty of shovelware on there, but there's some gems.
Well, that's kind of where I was going though, because a lot of people were like, "Oh no, like the WiiWare only titles disappearing. Like this is our only chance." But then, you know, when I was actually on the Wii Shop for the first time in my life, by the way, looking for WiiWare stuff, honestly, yeah, like most of the stuff is just kind of like I don't care. Like even the stuff that I got, like a quarter of the games I bought, like Stone Keep, was because it was hilariously bad, and Ghost Slayer doesn't even look that great. It just looks kind of interesting. Like,
Yeah, I mean, the Konami games are like the cream of the crop.
Those were as good as it gets, and ironically, even though those games are clearly actually good, I did not buy those because I'm just not a Contra guy. I'm just not a Castlevania guy. I'm not a Gradius guy. Like Anima, Anima I got because I was just like, well, it's a different thing. I'll take a look. But like the Konami stuff is obviously the stuff you should get, but it's just not my thing. What was I forgot if there was something else going on with the WiiWare stuff. Oh yeah, there were. I didn't even realize this. I think, or you might have mentioned this, but I forgot. But there were actually two unique Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles games.
Yeah, My Life as King and My Life as Dark Lord.
Yeah, I was just kind of like, huh. I was actually really considering getting those, but I ultimately didn't, just because I was like, realistically, I'm never actually gonna play these. They looked interesting, but I didn't like the original Crystal Chronicles, and like I figured these would be kind of like whatever.
So these games are apparently pretty good.
Yeah,
but
those
they're
are the
not
ones
my
that
type of game.
Yeah, I think My Life as a King specifically was meant to be like what gets you interested in the WiiWare section of the Wii Shop.
Yeah,
like that was like the proper game made for it.
It was one of the first premium titles made for WiiWare.
Yeah,
and it was priced as such. It was more expensive than the majority of games
most WiiWare games are 500 or 1,000 points, which is $5 or $10. My Life as a Dark,
I think
it was 15. Although My Life as a Dark Lord, I think, is still just 10.
Yeah, so My Life as King is like a royalty management sim. It's supposed to be kind of like, I don't know, like Populous or SimCity, but
it's not actually Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. It's like what you just said, Populous, but like with the Crystal Chronicles aesthetic. It's like how some games were gonna be their original things, but then they were repurposed to sell better. Like Seiken Densetsu was like Final Fantasy Legend, it's a Final Fantasy game, I swear. Or like even Star Fox Dinosaur Planet, like that was not going to be a Star Fox game.
I think it's named as such because it takes place in the world of Crystal Chronicles, and it also has the races of Crystal Chronicles.
But I mean, you can take any game and skin it in a certain series to make it in that series. So.
Yeah, that's what happened. Like it doesn't look like a bad game at all, but just not for me.
My Life as Dark Lord is a tower defense game, and apparently a good one at that. But I'm not a big tower defense guy. So.
Exactly. Like I was looking up gameplay footage to see like, is this the kind of thing I want to buy? I was like, I was kind of on the fence, but ultimately I decided no. But I do recommend that like other people buy it if you're even slightly into it. Just because I'm not into it doesn't mean it's bad. It like actually looked pretty good. Just I don't care enough.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there. If I was gonna buy anything else right before, the bell rings, it would probably be those. Even though like. Yeah. In the chance that I might get into those someday, and
that's
I might go, hey, I wish I had gotten that.
Yeah, and not to mention, like, as someone who uploads to YouTube, it's like, look at this, the Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles game you didn't know about. Like, it's kind of cool to do that, just like here's a weird game. Yeah.
I'm not a big Pokemon guy, but like Pokemon Rumble that kind of spoke to me because it's an action game and it's like an arena like action game. So like it kind of has a Smash TV kind of element to it. So I picked that up, because I kind of like that kind of stuff, like an arcadey kind of game.
I was debating that one as well. I was actually on the fence about a bunch of stuff, but I ultimately went with the 4 that I went with. So it was like, I think I spent like $20 or $30 or something. Like, there you go, it's over.
Yeah, I might just throw a few bucks on there just in case like something gets brought up that I never heard of. That's always, because the big problem with it is it's very difficult to navigate, and also like
it's clunky as hell.
It's hard to look through it all. So like I only really went through companies that I knew. Like I went into Hudson and I was like, what Hudson games do I like? What Konami games do I like?
That's the thing that I want to. That's the thing I want to complain about is you can search by publisher and you can search by genre, but if you go to most popular or most newly added, it only gives you the latest like 12. So you can't just keep scrolling and see what happens. So it's and you've never heard of fucking Ghost Slayer before. You're not gonna search that. Like there's no way.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, like
I'm actually kind of curious as to how you found out about it.
Oh, that's easy. I just Googled a list of exclusive Wiiware titles, and that was in there. I'm like, what's Ghost Slayer? I don't know. So I looked up. Like again, it is hard to find footage of Wiiware games because nobody knows or cares about them. So the best I could do was like a 10-minute video. So I was like, it looks interesting enough. The last thing I'll mention, and I'll keep this brief, is that this is actually the point where I'm going to step down from the Channel Awesome website. I know you guys don't follow, like the 2 people on this podcast with me, Vyse and Pyro. I know you guys don't really follow Channel Awesome much, if at all, but I've been on it for 5 years, and there's been some stuff on Twitter that's come out that some of which I knew, a lot of which I didn't. That's just led me to kind of want to dissociate myself, not from the other people who upload it to it, but like from the site. Like, I mean, we're not talking the level of like fucking Harvey Weinstein or anything, but the principle is similar, where it's like I'd rather not look the other way because I don't have a problem. And honestly, I probably could have gone a long time ago and I just didn't, but I'm finally kind of doing it.
We could talk about it more in depth.
I am going to do that, but I wanted to mention it now. The reason, by the way, that this is fucking how I'm doing it, this is how I'm doing my announcement, I don't have like a separate video for this. I probably will make a separate video for this, but the fact that I'm doing it like in the podcast where like, especially because like more people follow me on YouTube for my video game stuff than for the podcast. The podcast is more of like a niche thing. But the reason I'm announcing this here is that I'm kind of doing this as a sort of like stealth way of stepping down, where the announcement is embedded within other stuff in the podcast. And the reason I'm doing that, like it's such like a weaselly thing to do, is for any of you who are listening to this who do follow Channel Awesome, you may have noticed that if people you like have left the site, you probably don't know about that unless they themselves posted about it on Twitter or on YouTube or whatever. There wasn't an announcement on channelawesome.com. They used to do that, like, man, it's been a while. I don't know, many years ago, but they just kind of don't anymore. Like, all of a sudden, you're just kind of gone. So, like, and also there was one guy, Tom White, like, his username is He Is an Evil Genius. He does the weird video games series on YouTube. He tried doing a semi-stealth announcement that he was leaving he made a video called So Long and Thanks for All the Fish, like, because it's an actual departure announcement, but also, the Douglas Adams novel. Mm-hmm. And he was trying to, like, explain, like, that he was leaving, but the video didn't end up getting published on the website, and he was just removed without any of that. So it's kind of like a douchebag thing for the higher-ups to do. So I'm going to see if this makes it through. If it does, great. If it doesn't, I don't know. I'll still post about it. Yeah, if it doesn't, it's not the end of the world, but whatever. And we could talk a little more about this kind of thing on Reactive, but a bunch of the stuff gets personal, and I'm not going to talk about that stuff, so I won't have as much to talk about as I know. But still, there is that, so consider this the departure announcement. Even if you're watching this on Channel Awesome, then whoa, you found out. By the way, speaking of which, I do want to
catch us on YouTube and SoundCloud.
Yeah. be sure to hit subscribe and ring the bell to get the notifications. But I do want to give one shout out though. Throughout my time on Channel Awesome, I have consistently gotten typically one comment per video, but it's always been the same person, Happy Mel. So shout outs to Happy Mel. Thank you for following me on the site specifically. And yeah, kind of like what Vyse just said though, if you do wish to keep watching my stuff, then you could always just hit up my channel directly.
We'll still be around.
Yeah, because Channel Awesome is like a site that lets you see the YouTube page. You could just go directly to the YouTube page at this point, because Channel Awesome is not going to be an option anymore for that. But yeah, so anyone who has watched me on Channel Awesome, I very much appreciate their support, and I will still continue putting stuff on YouTube, as has been the case for several years. So anyway, that has been my week. So how about you, Vyse?
To be honest, it's going to be pretty short here with me. I have been doing hardcore adulting all week. So that includes job searching, banking, and doing my taxes.
I do kind of like how you open this podcast with like, this is what we did this week, especially the nerdy stuff. And you're like, I was doing my taxes.
Believe me, I was not having any fun doing any of this. As analytical as I can be, you know, and I like, you know, checking the boxes off and getting things done. This is seriously taking away from my fun time. In fact, today I had a day off and I spent it all day doing my taxes. So
yeah,
all day.
I was doing mine and my girlfriend's. It wasn't just my own.
Because I was gonna say, I don't know what you use, but like I've used TurboTax, and I hear that's not the best way to do it. But I will say it is like, I can generally take care of my stuff in like an hour and a half. It's like just
I usually
really like
also.
Squinting my eyes and seeing what's in this box and typing it on their site, and it's just like, it's a pain in the ass, but it's like, thank God I'm not doing this on paper.
Well, I'm using TurboTax as well, but my taxes are more complicated than yours. Let's just put it that way. I have investments, so it's more difficult.
Because I was going to say I have multiple W-2s, but otherwise it's just like, just do it again, but with a different W-2.
Yeah, okay. Like I've been adulting too, looking for new places to live, so I know that feeling of not having a lot of time to actually play games.
Yeah. And I've been like, you know, tweaking my resume and applying for jobs. Applying for jobs just takes so freaking long for no good reason.
I hate applying to jobs. It's such a pain in the ass.
And then you don't get any. The vast majority of them don't even contact you.
Yeah, they just ghost you.
Yep.
Remember back in the day where they would say, no, sorry, we're not interested, and that sucked, but you'd be like, well, hey, at least I know it. I don't have to keep hitting them up and trolling them to like get anything.
Like it's so dumb. Like, you don't. Some of the places just take a really long time to react. So like it's like 6 months down the line they'll be like, oh hey, and I'd be like, when did I even apply to
them? And you know what the funny thing is? Like not our parents, but like, you know, people the generation before us would probably be like, dude, just walk into their building and ask them for a job, or like call them on the phone. Like they will put a fucking restraining order on you if you do that. They, like I've seen, even for schools, I've seen several applications that say, do not call us. Do it through the same shit that everybody else does, which means you have maximum competition, and it sucks.
Yeah, before I got this job that I have now, one of the places I applied was Amazon, like as a software engineer, and I've been in this position now for 2 years, and now I'm getting emails from Amazon saying like, hey, like if you want to like come to one of our open interview things to come talk to us about it. I'm like, really? Yeah. It's too late.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
Remember that person I dated 2 times, and you never called me, and now you're like climbing up my tree like 2 years later. It's the same kind of shit. Yeah. Well, it's like, dude, like that ship has sailed a long time ago.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I've been doing that, and it's no fun. And even Lotus and I have been wanting to do like continue our LP, and I'd much rather be doing that. And unfortunately, I've been dedicating all my time to it, so no fun allowed.
I thought I was no fun allowed.
Yeah, no, like I'm not doing this to myself. It's the world doing it to me.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but you know, it's something that needs to be done, and I'm taking it seriously. So, you know, and it'll like all this stuff is necessary, and you know, the job search will work itself out. I'm confident. I have a lot of experience, and I have a lot of education, so And this good-looking face. I mean, who could say that? It's my meal ticket. But yeah, and I can kind of read introductions okay after the third time, and I got a lot of skills.
You should put that on your resume. I could read introductions after at hopefully at most 3 tries, maybe one more if it takes one more.
There's only 5 minutes of editing that you need to do by chopping out the beginning of every podcast.
I think I'm just gonna leave the beginning of the podcast in, so we have that. Welcome to the flub. Wait. Okay. Welcome to the next. And it's just like, what is this?
But yeah, in terms of games that I played, I just played real quick stuff. So like I played Shock Trooper Second Squad, which is a Neo Geo favorite that came out on the Switch recently. I love both the Shock Trooper games.
I think I played that. It sounds familiar.
Yeah, they're above. It's kind of like Metal Slug, but it's it's above.
Yeah, it's like top down. It's like
okay.
It's almost like, it's like Jackal,
Mercs.
except you're on foot.
Jackal, yeah, it's like Jackal or Mercs or Commando.
Okay, yeah, there we go.
Anything like that. Ikari Warriors, anything like that.
Yeah, Ikari Warriors with controls that you can actually use.
Yeah. It's like the better expression of those types of games,
Yeah.
So they're a lot of fun, and I play it here and there, just to spend like a couple minutes. And I also played a little bit of Chrono Trigger DS, not much more. I'm still in the phase where I need to try to escape the gulag from losing the trial, so I'm still at the beginning of the game. But I did play for the first time Mummy Demastered because I've been hearing really good things about it.
Yeah, I heard good things about it too.
Great animation.
And the music is phenomenal. Like I really have to buy the soundtrack. It's really, really good.
I think you should watch the movie it's based on to better understand it.
I think I will watch every Universal movie until this point.
Remember that time they were going to make a dark universe, and then that movie fucking sucked, and so nope.
Well, they're still making Bride of Frankenstein, so.
Oh, they actually are still going with it.
Yeah, the second movie is coming out.
Oh, fair enough. Okay.
So, but
maybe they'll remake Van Helsing.
Ugh.
I actually like that movie, but it's like, what?
Van Helsing is related to I, Frankenstein, isn't it?
Oh, is it?
Yeah. They tried to reboot the Universal Monsters franchise a couple times. One of them was with Monster Squad was another time they tried to do it. They basically, some people have been saying they're the original Avengers because they were like the first crossover.
They were the original Avengers. I know what you mean, but that statement just sounds so silly.
James Rolfe has mentioned that on his channel as well. Like, people are getting hyped about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but like Universal did it like Frankenstein meets Wolfman. That was mind blowing at the time.
Yeah. So like apparently people are loving this game, and they love it way more than the actual property it's based off of, which is really funny.
Yeah,
it's a way forward game. It's great. I played through the initial part of the game and beat the first boss, which was a really cool spider boss, and it's a lot of fun.
One thing I kind of... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
What I was going to say is it's more difficult, like the original Metroid. It's meant to be more going back to the Metroid style rather than the Castlevania style, because a lot of the bad guys take a little bit of extra time to kill. They take more hits than the average enemy in a Castlevania game. Like, most enemies don't take all that much to kill unless they're like a big bad guy, or like a mini boss or something. And in this game, there's a lot of like Medusa head kind of enemies. And there's also limited there's also limited ammo in all of the weapons except for the starting.
Okay.
What I was going to say is that, like, I don't have much experience with this game. I've only seen it played for like 15 minutes, but from what I've heard, it does something like the Souls games or Zombie, where when you die, you become an enemy that shambles in that area.
Yeah,
and then your next character can take him out and get the stuff back.
Yeah. So that guy becomes a zombie essentially. So
yeah, what's really creepy though is
undead.
that you see some characters that are like that, like the soldiers with guns, but then when you die you become one of them and you realize it's like the same exact sprite and everything, and you're like, oh. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. They kind of set you up for that. I haven't died yet, but I'm sure I will because the game's difficult.
Yeah.
The game also reintroduces farming into the grinding for energy and stuff. Like when you save, your health isn't refilled like a modern Metroid or Castlevania game. So you do have to grind for your ammo and health.
For ammo, I can buy it for ammo, but I it doesn't sit well with me that you have to grind for health. Because, like, I'm thinking, like, the original Metroid, like, when you die, it's like, oh, damn it, okay, well, now to try fighting that boss again. Oh, wait, let me spend literal minutes waiting for enemies to come to me so I could kill them for health power-ups. It's like, dude, we don't need to do that.
Well, the way that it goes is that you go back to the save point, and whatever you were at the save point is what you have. You don't grind from zero. You grind from wherever you last saved.
Oh, okay. All right. That's not so bad.
So, yeah. You know...
Because, yeah, in Metroid, you respawn with, like, 30 health and 0 extra bars, and it's like, get out of here.
It's not like that. They don't make you do that from the get-go or anything like that. And it does have an auto map, just like, Super Metroid. Yeah. So it's a good game. And I'm liking the challenge of it. Like, there's a lot of enemies that will, like, mess up your platforming and that, so you have to be a lot more deliberate. And a lot of the Castlevania games kind of got into the mode where it was just kind of like a big empty room with the enemy was the thing that you had to pay attention to, not the actual environment.
Yeah, NES Castlevania was more like bump you off the platform.
Yeah. So it does more of that kind of stuff, and also relies on expert platforming. So
yeah,
I'm really enjoying it. It's a lot more deliberate.
Ori and the Blind Forest kind of does that too. Like, it has a lot of, like, enemies can kill you, but if anything does kill you, it's probably going to be the stage.
Yeah. So I'm enjoying that. I played it a little bit, and I'm definitely going to play more. And I'm just going to say a couple quick things here before moving on. But I did want to say quickly, because we mentioned this before, but Robotics Notes is actually coming to the West.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So it's one of the Chaos Head games. What is it called? The
science games.
The science games.
But what we're talking about is, like, the most famous one in America, at least, is probably Steins Gate. It got an anime series. But these are the games that have the semicolon between them, like Steins, semicolon, Gate, Chaos, semicolon, Head. Now we got Robotics, semicolon, Notes. Yeah,
so that was the one that was actually in between Chaos Head and Steins Gate. So it's called the Science Adventure series. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's Chaos Head, Steins Gate, and then Robotics Notes, and then Chaos Child.
I was just gonna mention regarding Chaos Child. It does kind of bug me that, like, it's super cool that we got Chaos Child, but, like, we never turned around and officially got Chaos Seed. Like, there are fan translations, but it's like, man, let us have it.
Yeah. So Chaos Head, you mean? Chaos Head was...
What did I say? Seed?
Seed. Yeah.
Sorry, for some reason I thought Child was Seed. Yeah, we got Child, not Chaos Head, though. And, like, yeah, let us have Chaos Head.
So out of all of the major... that was the last major game in the series that we didn't get, because we have Steins Gate Zero now.
Yeah, we got Steins Gate and Steins Gate Zero.
Yeah, so...
Physical copies, even. We even got Steins Gate on PS3 and I think the Vita?
The Steins Gate is on a lot of stuff now.
Yeah, and PC.
So yeah, no, it's on the Vita. Yeah, you're right. So I'm glad, because I love it when you think all hope is lost. I mean, like Robotics Notes is a 2012 game. Like, I don't expect a game from 6 years ago to be localized.
Yeah, but then Trails of the Sky 3 happened, so who the hell knows?
Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those things that's like, oh, hey, awesome. Yeah. This is something that I've been wanting.
Or even Sin and Punishment, like on the Virtual Shop. It's like, finally, here we go. Like, okay.
Yeah, so I'm excited that that's coming. I want to start by playing Chaos Head and move my way up, of course, because there's a fan translation of that. But
Yeah.
I also wanted to point out what I bought this week. I bought a game for PSVR, which is apparently like supposed to be like the game for PSVR now. It's called Moss. I think it's supposed to be pronounced Mouse. So it's a game where you're like guiding a mouse through hand gestures and stuff like that. It's supposed to be really, really good. It's supposed to be very whimsical, fun, and endearing. So it was recommended to us by our friend Drakeologist. And then I looked it up, and it was awesome. It's gotten fantastic reviews, so I can't wait to play it.
Cool.
I also picked up Kirby Star Allies. Love Kirby games, so I'm sure that'll be a lot of fun. Oh, and I did play the Great Cave Offensive on Kirby Superstar XXL. I forgot to talk about that. Or Kirby...
That's the best game in Superstar Saga, I think.
Oh, okay. It's the updated version of Kirby Superstar. I think it's Kirby Superstar Deluxe. Yeah, that's it. The DS one. So I was playing that. And I got through the first area by getting all the treasures, so I was happy. And I did buy The Curse of Monkey Island, which is one of those classic PC games that finally got a modern release.
Yeah, it's on. I saw GOG had it.
Yeah, I played them both on Steam when they were released on Steam.
Yeah, like that's a big deal. Like these LucasArts games, like Grim Fandango, Day of the Tentacle, Maniac Mansion, Curse of Monkey Island. Like this is stuff that like you wanted but couldn't get in a modern playable context for a very long time. Yeah,
so this is Monkey Island 3, which by a lot of fans of the series is considered to be the best one. So it's basically got away from the original 8-bit computer aesthetic, kind of deal. DOS game aesthetic, I should say. Not 8-bit computer. It's not like an Atari 8-bit system or anything like that. But the first two games, it was also the first game to have voice acting. They have since remade 1 and 2 with voice acting, but this was the first game that like originated with voice acting. It was a CD game, and it's animated superbly, and the game is just fantastic.
Yeah, those
really,
games
really
look
good.
Gorgeous.
It was really a damn shame that it had never been released in a modern context. Like, basically, you had to pirate it in order to
get it
running. Now the only game that isn't being sold in the series, 5 is obviously available. 4 isn't available, but I'm sure.
Which one was 4?
Escape from Monkey Island. It had a release on PS2 as well. Probably the easiest way to get a hold of it now.
Yeah,
is probably the PS2 version. It was a launch window game for PS2. That's a really good game too, but it has some convoluted moments, some really big leaps in logic, like too big.
That's the old. Even though it's a LucasArts game, that's a very Sierra kind of problem.
Yeah. But I'm looking forward to playing that game again. I don't think I've ever beaten it. I've gotten to the second disc, but I've never beaten it. So
I've never played any of those. Like I've only really done the King's Quest stuff.
Oh no, the Monkey Island are
the Monkey Island ones are really good.
Well, yeah,
the ending
that's
of
the
the
thing.
second one is weird.
Sierra like introduced it, and LucasArts I think mastered it, with the single exception of maybe King's Quest 6, because that game is really good.
What were you saying, Pyro? I'm sorry.
I was saying that they're all really good, but the ending of 2 is really weird.
I think I've heard about that, and that's like, whoa.
Yeah. So this is a really great opportunity for people to pick it up, and like I said, probably the 4th game in the series isn't far long. I'm sure that'll be released soon, because if this one was released, then that one will probably get worked out soon too. So there really aren't many classic PC games that I'm still like hounding for that should be in a modern context. I mean, all the great Star Wars games got released.
That was fantastic. Yeah,
I think every LucasArts game but Monkey Island 4 at this point has been released. Yeah, I think that's the only one at this point, because Day of the Tentacle finally got re-released, and
as a remaster, no less. They even got
and
like
Grim
the stuff.
Fandango.
Yeah, and they even got the stuff that you like might have thought they wouldn't, like the Dig and Loom.
Oh yeah, no, all of them are there except for this one. Both Indiana Jones games.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only other one is maybe the Black Cauldron game, but I mean that was even before Maniac Mansion. So they even got Zach McCracken.
That's
with
right.
An release.
And was Willie Beamish LucasArts?
No, that's a different.
Well, they do have that anyway.
Yeah. So it's great. I mean, Disney's given clearance for almost all their classic PC games to be released.
Yeah, which is fantastic.
So, yeah, never would have expected it out of Disney, but lo and behold.
Yeah.
So we can move on to our question. We did want to quickly say that Facathon wanted to respond to our question, which was
how do you how do you deal with an evil character in a good party?
Yeah. Would you like to read this a little bit?
I'm not going to read like it verbatim because his like
just
a
give
more
us a summary of what he said. Yeah.
But he said what generally he would do is like he said one of his friends was like a magic user and he activated a seal that brought a gargoyle to life, and that thing, the gargoyle, was grateful and therefore became like a servant, like almost like a pet that wants to please its owner, or a kid that wants to please its dad or something.
Like Dobby.
Yeah, so like so now what Facathon said though was a lot of the time the situation would boil down to making the character understand the concept of good and evil through like pragmatism. For example, if you attack a baker, that's bad because the next time you come into his bakery because you want cupcakes, he's not going to make you any. Like, stuff like that. So, like, you should be good just because it benefits you. Like, even on a basic level. Like, this goes back to what Vyse said about selfish versus selfless. But, like, you might incidentally do good because you will benefit from it directly. Or, like, helping a guard is a good idea because then all guards will like us and help us on our quest, etc.
Being a dick makes your life harder.
That's the thing. Because he said, my character would choose the evil option first, which came naturally to him, and would wait for the master's approval. And the master would be like, yeah, well, let's try it the other way first. And he said another cool thing he had read through the internet was that there was a party that worked as mercenaries for a company. One of the characters was evil, but one of the things that he despised happens also to be evil. So he might be an evil character, but he has certain principles that go against other evil things, like people who abuse their powers or mistreat others. So this guy might be lawfully evil or something, but it's like, yeah, but that guy's a jerk, like, so that kind of thing. So they would at least develop a sort of mutual understanding and respect. So their methods were different, but their goals are the same.
The thing about evil characters that I found is, like, a lot of times, like, good characters are on the same side as each other. Like, evil characters are being selfish by like their nature, so they're not going to work well with each other.
Yep. Well, what's interesting though is that you could have like the sort of like the Vegeta joining Goku kind of thing going on, where it's like there's an evil slave trader. So what the evil guy in the party does is lock him in a building and burn it down. Sorry about collateral damage, but that guy's dead. What are you complaining about? And meanwhile, the rest of his party's like, dude. Or like, there's a different bad guy where the guy will do the Dr. Wily thing. And he'll be like, oh, I'm super sorry, you guys. And the good guys would be like, this is your last chance. And the evil guy would be like, why don't you just fucking shoot him? Like, so it's stuff like that. So, like, it's different ways of handling the same problem, which is kind of interesting.
All right, well, let's move on to our question. We, of course, love any response to our questions or anything involved, so please keep it up. Please share this kind of things, because we will share it on the air.
Yeah, so this question comes from General Ledger. This is more like a fantasy question. Assuming you had the resources, where would you build your secret base, and what facilities or features would you give it?
So I was thinking of this earlier. I don't know where it would be, really, but I do know that I'd want some sort of laser, like from the Resident Evil movie. The laser
the lasers that like jump up with you. That was the most bullshit thing.
And then like slice your face in a grid.
Yep.
Yeah, like in Cube.
Wherever it is, I want that.
Whatever it is, give it to me.
My secret base will just be my house. There's just a laser security.
Yeah,
hallway.
and like you forget, like, hey Pyro, I'm over here to start recording Danganronpa again. Oh, come on in. And like you forgot to tell me about the laser. I just die. Oh, jeez. Oh no. In my case, I was thinking more of location than features. For features, I'd probably just be like a turtle. I would have like the purge is like, steel shutters and everything to lock in. But for a location, I don't want to do it in like, the castle on top of the hill. I would probably, if I could get away with it, choose a place that looked like an abandoned building or something. So it's just inconspicuous and just not have hundreds of henchmen park in its parking lot because that would look weird.
Or just pull like a Dexter's Lab where it's like your basement.
It's like under your house. Yeah. There we go. I love that idea, by the way.
They would never think to look there.
But I love the idea if it just is your basement. So like you just go through your house. You're like, hey guys, come on in. You just go downstairs into your basement. It's like, this is it.
Well, I mean, you could have it in your basement if you have laser security.
Of course. And your password to shut down the self-destruct mechanism is Star Wars.
Omelette du fromage.
Yes.
Mine would be in Queen's Hospital.
I would probably have mine in Olean Hospital.
The
veterinary hospital.
Yeah, that would be a reference to our one of our
Snatcher.
Let's Plays of Snatcher. Yeah, where the Snatchers have their base in a hospital. But
it's like a hospital below a hospital, and it's like identical in structure somehow.
Yeah. That was actually kind of a page taken out of. I didn't realize this at the time because I didn't think I had read it, but that was taken from Robots Dream of Electric.
Oh,
Android's Dream of Electric Sheep. Yeah. Like they took him. They took the main character of Deckard like straight to like the police station, but it was a fake one run by androids.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Like it was indistinguishable.
That's like Skrulls in Marvel. I heard there was like one part in the Marvel comics somewhere where like somebody in the Justice League no, it was Marvel, so it wouldn't be Justice League, but like in the Marvel equivalent of like, I guess like the Avengers HQ or something, whatever the building was like, wait a minute, are there any Skrulls among us? And they used their like mind waves to detect, and they were literally the only person who wasn't a Skrull, and it's like, that's terrifying.
Yeah,
like that's like, what do you do?
I would have mine below a Taco Bell, so I could get Taco Bell whenever I wanted.
Perfect.
I mean, like, it would need to be convenient. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, like I was thinking like the usual like volcano lair or secret island, but
we're in New Jersey, New York. Are we gonna find a fucking volcano lair?
But I mean, it's more like it'd be so annoying to get to. It's like not really a secret base if I had to take a plane or a helicopter to get
That's
there.
the thing, yeah. Like,
and you have to get
I live in Hawaii.
Shipments to it like all the time. like supplies. Like
your latest Amazon order.
Kind of like what Lotus is saying, you'd want it in a place that's close but like inconspicuous. That, like, obviously not in your house because that's the first place that people would look for your secret base, but somewhere that is close enough that you could go to without.
Yeah, you could have it right in the middle of town. There's actually a place near me where, like, it's where I go to get my hair cut, where there's like a bunch of stores there, but like the back side of that complex used to be a thing, but now it isn't. It's just abandoned, and like it could just be right there. You know, nobody gives a shit about that place. Nobody has to know.
Pick like an old ice skating rink or movie theater that no one goes to anymore.
Right? Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Like over by Rutgers, that FUD. What was it?
Joker always finds a broken down amusement park to. Like,
yeah, exactly. Now, I was gonna say over by Rutgers where we used to go, like you know that Fuddruckers that closed down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you get to say my evil base is in the place that used to be Fuddruckers, the lamest supervillain ever. So like can you imagine you're giving your henchman the address to your base? Didn't that used to be a Fuddruckers? Shut up.
That's really funny. I would put seriously though. I would put my secret base below Lotus's because nobody would look there for it.
No, nobody wants to bother with
If
that.
they
That
found
actually is a good
lotuses, they
point.
wouldn't
Like,
go looking for another. Secret
that
base right
is true.
underneath
Like,
it.
we found the secret base. We're done.
Yeah. Nobody would keep digging. Come on.
What else would you guys put in your secret base?
In it, that's trickier.
This makes me think
Pellegrino?
of that game. Have you ever played Evil Genius?
I've heard of it, but no.
Yeah.
It was a really fun game. Like you're trying to build like your evil lair, and you have henchmen that you have to hire, and like I think I would have a ball pit. That'd be one of the traps.
Do you get one if something goes wrong at your base? Do you get 1 free hour of the ball pit?
No. That'd be one of the traps, a giant ball pit, because you know how hard it is to swim through a ball pit.
It's pretty hard.
In Philadelphia, they actually opened up a nightclub with a ball pit.
Wow.
If something goes wrong there, do you get 1 free hour in the ball
It's
pit?
probably full of vomit.
Well, the thing is, it's funny that you bring that up because you know they've taken them out of kids stuff now.
Yeah.
You don't see ball pits anymore. It's because you have to clean them. They actually bleach the ball pit every night, like every night.
It must be insanely hard to like deal with.
They
ball
must have
pits.
built it. They must have built the container specifically to allow it to be cleaned.
Yeah.
So they probably have a special way of doing it with a lot of thought and care put into it. But yeah,
Would you also have little tunnels you could crawl through and a slide at the end, like a discovery zone?
I would really want like secret passages in like a normal place that I could get to. Kind of like in Get Smart, just like
the rotating bookcase
that lead into it, stuff like that. I love secret passages.
Or are you talking about like more like in Spaceballs where he teleported to the next room? Like your you have secret walls that let you go to the room just right next door. There's a door.
Yeah, there's a secret wall right next to the door, and they both lead to the next room. It's like, what? How did you get here secretly?
It's an unlisted wall.
or like in the Clue movie where you could like take the painting out of the frame and there's just a passage in the back. I always thought that was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Pull the left.
Put the candle back. I'm going to say this very carefully. No, listen to me very carefully. It's so good.
So good.
What a stupid passage. It just keeps rotating like too much.
Mel Brooks must have loved secret passages too, or the concept of them, because they appeared 3 times right there in Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
I love the ending of the opening credits of Get Smart where the final doors close and they kind of like catch him on the nose a bit and he's like, ah.
All right, well, we should wrap up for this week. Yeah. We're a little long in the tooth here, and I can read the outro. I don't know what it is about the intro that like trips me up all the time.
It's the pre-podcast jitters. It happens to everybody. This is going on YouTube for everyone to hear.
I gotta read it right for the fans. And that's the show for this week. We want to thank all of our fans. Oh wait, guys, let's restart.
Sorry. Lotus, you'll cover this in post, right?
We want to thank all of our fans who contributed questions. Please keep us supplied with awesome topics by submitting your questions of your own on the YouTube and SoundCloud pages. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. It helps us promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Thursdays on our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the in-depth look at this week in our lives. Finally, you can friend me as VyseTheBold on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, Twitter, Battle.net, and Switch.
And you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you are interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, or even selecting upcoming games to Let's Play, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
And you can find me as PyroJackFrost or Cloudoid540 on most gaming media such as PSN, Battle.net, and Steam.
And wherever books are sold.
No, I'm only available in Kindle form.
Okay. Wherever digital books are sold.
Perfect.
All right, everybody. Catch you on Thursday.
Until next time, everyone.
Good night.